running around the kitchen looking for my lunch. So no, that was a good experience running. So let's get into it again. And I just want to make sure, Maya, can you do a roll call, please, my friend, just to make sure that people are still not eating?
Aye. Okay. Councillor Bartley.
Present.
Councillor Casey.
Kia ora mai.
Deputy Mayor Cashmore.
Aye.
Councillor Collins.
Kia ora mai.
Sorry for lateness. Present. Oh, sorry.
Councillor
Sorry, Chair. Sorry.
Kia ora anō, and can I just note, please, that I just need to duck out at 4 o'clock to speak at a council event. Sorry, Chair, I should have mentioned that at the very beginning, but I might have been too optimistic about when we would be finishing. I can come back again by 5.
Yeah, either that or we'll see you at dinner at 7. Kia ora.
Okay, sorry about that. Kia ora.
Councillor Cooper.
Aye.
Councillor Dalton.
Present.
Councillor Darby.
Aye.
Councillor Fletcher's an apology. Mayor Goff.
Kia ora.
Councillor Hills.
Kia ora.
IMSB member Kaki.
Aye.
Councillor Mulholland. I know you were there.
Present. Apologies, Chair. Someone just turned up, so I've been thrown out. Sorry.
Kapai.
Councillor Newman.
Good afternoon, Maya.
Councillor Stewart.
Present.
Councillor Walker. Councillor Watson.
Good afternoon, Maya.
Oh, thank you, Councillor Watson. IMSB member Wilcox. Councillor Young.
Present.
Thank you, Chair.
Kia ora, thank you, Maya. We'll move on to item 16. Item 16 now, I will move it. Councillor Casey will second, unless Councillor Collins would like to second the report. Councillor Casey will second. So I'm just going to invite Carl and introduce the team that's here in regards to item 16. So it's on the table now for discussion. So Carl, I invite you to introduce the team, please.
Ngā mihi o te ahi ki a koutou, ko eke panuku mahi aho, ko Kalme toku ingoa. And with me are Letitia Edwards, the head of strategic asset optimization, and my colleague Anthony Lewis, who is the senior advisor on asset recycling portfolio optimization. I've just shared my screen. Can everybody see that, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. Well, I'm presenting the report on the of the independent commissioners on the proposal to reverse 6 reserves, 3 in the Mongaki, my cursor now, and 3 in the Mangere Otahu local board area. The Finance and Performance Committee passed a resolution on the 16th of July 2020 to dispose of these 6 properties as part of the emergency budget asset recycling list, subject to required statutory processes, which in this case is a reserve revocation. Eke Panuku, on behalf of Council, undertook iwi and public notification in January and February 2021 in accordance with Section 24 of the Reserves Act 1977. For these 6 reserves, we received a total of 14 site-specific submissions and a further 56 submissions that covered the wider Auckland area. In May 2021, Eke Panuku recommended to the Regulatory Committee that independent commissioners be appointed to consider the submissions and to hold public hearings. This was duly done. The public hearing for these 6 properties was held online shortly after we went into lockdown in late August 2021. The Commissioner's report has been submitted in Appendix D. In a nutshell, the Commissioners support the proposed revocation of all 6 reserves, although they have noted that in the case of 5R Ferguson Street, it would be appropriate to explore disposal options in whole or in part to the adjoining owner that has been encroaching on a part of the reserve since 1979. We therefore recommend that the committee accept the recommendations of the independent commissioners to forward a request to the Minister for Conservation to uplift the reserve status of these 6 properties. Thank you very much. I'm open to questions.
Meeting.
Yep. Okay. All right, Al. Cheers.
Okay. Look, humble apologies. I'm assuming, Carl, everything's done, and I'm just going to open it up for part-time. There's none. I'm going to end up opening for any whakaaro. Is that where I'm up to, Maya?
Correct.
Thank you so much. So if there's none, and there doesn't seem to be, it's been moved and seconded, I'm going to put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
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 Against?
Against.
Okay. Do you want it noted, Councillor Bartley?
Yes, please.
Sorry,
Okay.
Yeah, that's an against from me too, Tony.
Oh, yeah, Matua Kake as well.
And
Against
Collins.
Councillor Mulholland.
Okay. Anybody else?
Collins.
And Collins. Kapai. So those 4 have been noted. So we'll move on. Thank you so much, team. We'll move on to the next item. And the next item is 17. And that's the Homelessness Work Programme progress update. I've got Councillor Collins and Councillor Casey who will move this particular item 17. And I'm just going to invite Bonnie to introduce the team, Taff, Ben and Caroline. Kia ora.
Kia ora, councillors. My name is Ben Brooks. I'm the Senior Policy Manager in Social Wellbeing Policy, and I've got Bonnie Epps, who is the Senior Policy Advisor leading this work, Caroline Stevens, who's also in the team, and then Taff Wakaira and Dickie Humphreys, who are from Connected Communities. So Bonnie will do a short presentation, and then we'll be happy to take questions.
Kapai.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you, Ben. I'll start by with a brief recap on the decisions made before today on the Homelessness Work Programme. So in August 2017, Council decided to contribute to the vision that homelessness is rare, brief and non-recurring by supporting the sector, developing a cross-sectoral approach for Auckland and strengthening levers. In August 2020, Council endorsed Kia Whai Kainga Tātou Katoa, Auckland's regional cross-sectoral homelessness plan to provide strategic leadership and cross-sectoral coordination for Auckland. Council offers backbone support to the homelessness sector under this plan. Council also approved an implementation plan to strengthen levers and agreed to take an adaptive approach for COVID-19 impacts and to report back in 18 months. This 18-month update report progress on council actions, provides information on the nature and scale of homelessness in Auckland and seeks approval of the next implementation plan. The figure on the right here illustrates the monitoring and evaluation framework for Kia Whai Kainga Tātou Katoa and how we are we've structured our update report. So the framework includes monitoring progress on actions, system outputs, and long-term outcomes. COVID-19 has impacted people who are experiencing homelessness and the homelessness sector. This has also caused delays to some strategic mahi. Our partners among the sector have been focused on public health responses. Despite this, 2 council-led actions are complete, 2 are in progress, and 3 are on hold. 15 council-only actions are BAU or in progress. For system outputs and long-term outcomes, staff collated data from central government and publicly available data over the last 18 months. This is an attachment B to the report. So we cannot measure the specific impact of council's actions among a complex system of multiple contributors. Instead, we use the collective impact evaluation model to evaluate progress, speaking with agencies and service providers in Auckland. In the early years of collective impact, these core competencies are the focus. Many in the sector told us that continuous communication and common agenda are present. Feedback on mutually reinforcing activities was mixed. Several organisations, including Auckland Council, provide backbone support, but no one entity provides full backbone support for the sector. Staff also assess the strengths, weaknesses and constraints of Kia Whai Kāinga Tātou Katoa. It is still the only regional cross-sectoral plan in Auckland. It has embedded council's role and enabled the delivery of council-led actions. Weaknesses include low engagement and identifying priorities for collective work. When asked what council can do in 2022 and 2023, the sector confirmed council's current role should continue and suggested some new actions within this role. Council will continue to offer the backbone support it currently provides and to investigate how this might be strengthened. Staff seek approval of the new priority actions in line with Council's role in Attachment C. We're happy to take any questions and I'll pass back to Ben to coordinate these.
Thank you, Bonnie. So I don't think there's any part-time. Any further of the team to say anything? If not, it has been moved in second. Oh, here he is. No, Matua Kake Pātai.
Yeah, kia ora, thank you for the report, and I acknowledge, this is not an easy one to address, but just can you be a bit more specific in terms of the significant impacts on homelessness on Māori and what's intended there?
So I'll hand that one to Bonnie.
So, Māori are overrepresented among those experiencing homelessness, and COVID-19 has had specific impacts on this. The service providers that we engaged spoke about those impacts and also some of the changes in the sector that are going on, including more emphasis on Māori-led and initiatives and Māori-led strategy. Yeah.
Can you be more specific? Like it sounds like is our approach to actually work with these other Māori organisations? Is that what you're essentially saying? Yeah. So council's role again in the attachment is just highlighting that yeah. I guess kai kaue kōrero role, the facilitation coordination role. Is that it? Is there any? Would you? Well, no. I was going to ask you about funding. That's probably not fair, actually.
Yes.
Kia ora matua kake, he kanoe hauahau I roto I tēnei tari. But I'm the regional partnerships lead in homelessness in this mahi, and just picking up your point around our connection and mahi with whānau Māori. We're in the process of distributing the homelessness funding for those outreach services that connect into our most vulnerable. So that's in train as we speak, and there's some sensitivities around where that funding's going, but there are some Māori organisations as a part of that process, and also we're looking at lining up the Kia Whai Kāinga Tātou Katoa strategy with Kia ora te Kāinga outcome under kia ora Tamaki Makoto, and we're engaging in a feasibility study around marae-led emergency housing pilot and commissioning that around the practicalities of marae, facilitating Māori whānau to transition into housing and what that might look like. So just getting the scope of marae to housing ecosystem, the limitations around that, and what that potentially could look like.
Hey, thank you for the response. I remember when Mayor Goff was in a subcommittee when this all started again, under the new council super city regime, and to be fair, it doesn't sound like we've advanced it that much. Frustrating, I feel.
Kapai. Councillor Collins.
Kia ora, Chair, and thanks for the opportunity to ask some questions. Thanks also to Ben, who made some time available to me to explain some of the report. I've just got a couple of questions. Firstly, under point 53 of 55 of the report, the collective impact evaluation, I was wondering if, given the comments that were made in that, if this might be an opportunity for us to reconsider how council might assist in leading some of these activities. I know when we spoke, Ben, we've got a real support function. And I just wonder, as we might get to the point where we're coming out of COVID and groups are starting to come back together, if this might be an opportunity to lead, or if the team see it as let's continue to play the support role to allow leadership to come from within the groups.
Kia ora, thank you, Councillor. So I think we do play a leadership role for some items, but we also do fundamentally collaborate with the sector. So even where we are taking a lead, we want to do that in collaboration with the sector. But Bonnie might be able to build on that answer a little bit.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. When we spoke with the sector through the engagement that we did with the sector for this update, we did ask the sector, what can council do in 2022 and 2023 directly, and they were really, the partners that we spoke to really understood our role and are supportive of it at the moment. And some of them have indicated interest in getting back into some strategic work, and we're here ready to kind of take those opportunities as we come out of the emergency response. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I've just got two other quick questions. Point 53 talks about how COVID has impacted on the strategic mahi, and we're all very aware that there's been a lot of on-the-ground work, which many of us appreciate. So thank you to each of you. I was just wondering if, given the question that Matua Kake has just asked, if you feel this is the opportunity to allow some of the strategic thinking to come to rise again. This will give us the opportunity to do that, given so much of the focus has been on the ground work.
That's another one for you, Bonnie.
Yes, so I mean, we did sort of speak with the sector when they had indicated some interest in getting back to strategic mahi, and made the forum available for that again this year. Unfortunately, the Omicron sort of outbreak happened right at that time, and even at that meeting, the ability for people to engage was low. So we will just keep really working and listening to them and making the group available when the right time comes. Yeah.
Okay, just to build on that, so just to reinforce Bonnie's point, that the sector has indicated that they are really keen to work in that space. They don't want to always be in the urgent responsive phase. That has partly been a reaction to COVID and needing to operate in that space, but they are keen to work with us in that strategic space, but recognising that that really relies on them having the capacity to do that, and at the moment that's a challenge for them.
Thank you. And just my final question is, I wonder if you might elucidate just a little bit further on points 48 to 50 around antisocial behaviour and how well you believe we understand that. You'll know we are in election year. There is some politicisation in the media around antisocial behaviour and connecting it almost unfairly to those who are homeless or rough sleeping. And I just wondered if you might just give a bit more of an explanation so that people are clear that we are not talking about, when we're talking about the homeless community and rough sleeper community, we're not immediately associating it with antisocial behaviour.
Kia ora, thank you, Councillor. So one of the issues that the sector talks to us about, and is a priority for Kia Whai Kāinga Tātou Katoa, is around stigma of the homeless community. So we're keen in whatever we do to not exacerbate that issue. We have had numerous reports around issues around antisocial behaviour in the city centre, but also in other parts of Auckland. It is an issue where we have lots of people telling us what the causes are. When we talk to the homelessness sector, they say that it is not just an issue of people who are homeless engaging in that kind of behaviour. And more others are saying similar things, but we are also getting reports that it is at least partially people who are homeless. So one thing that we are looking to do is, can we do some work with central government, some of the key central government agencies, as well as the broader sector, to actually really dive into that? Because at the moment, I think we are receiving lots of anecdotal reports on what are the drivers, but it's very hard to put in place proper solutions to these types of issues without actually having some really robust evidence to make those kind of calls. So that's what we're working on at the moment.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Collins. Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Alf, and thanks, team, Ben, Bonnie. It seems to have been forever that we've had homeless on Auckland streets, alcohol, drug problems, mental issues. And I sort of keep getting the thing, we're not succeeding. How well aligned are we with the private philanthropic sector and the Crown on an agreed plan and a way of getting out of this problem, solving it, and working to make these people's lives better? Or are we just on the treadmill?
Kia ora, Mr Deputy Mayor. I think we have some good alignment in the sense that we now have some plans in place that weren't previously, and there is an extremely good alignment between them. So we have the national plan, and we also have Kia Whai Kāinga Tātou Katoa, which is our regional Auckland plan, which has been endorsed by councillors the last time we spoke to this committee about these issues. Those plans are in good alignment, and we engage very regularly. I think it's fair to say, and I think you'll see this in the report, that it's not perfect, and there are some opportunities to improve that, which is one of the things we're working on. We're also keen, I guess, to play our part as council. So councillors have made decisions about the role and focus that we will have, and we've been working on that, and also working with the sector to make sure that what we are doing is as supportive and productive as possible, and we're getting some good feedback about that. I think we have been partially sort of derailed a little bit by COVID, but also it has created some opportunities. So we saw for a while at least some quite substantial reductions in the number of people rough sleeping, which has been positive. Some of those people have now returned to the streets, which is an issue, but there have still been some positives even more broadly around some of the health responses and being able to support people, and also some of the work bringing the sector together and the level of sort of connection and collaboration between not us and the broader sector, but also within central government and some of the other key players. So I think all of us would have liked to have seen more progress, but I think we have seen some good progress, and I think there is a real will and some real some good foundations. Not that we would have wanted to have gone through COVID, but it has put in place some things that I think put us in a good place to build in the future.
Thanks, and I do recognise, Ben, that you and the team, I'm not in control of the situation. You're one of the people trying to solve it. I wish you all power to your arms. I wish you all the best. But it has to be monitored, it has to be checked on for levels of success. Otherwise, we are just a treadmill, and we can't have that. Thank you.
Okay.
Right. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Sorry, Matua Glenn, and then Councillor Bartley.
Thank you, Chair. My first question, I've just got a couple.
is there's quite a bit here about Māori homelessness. I'm struggling to see a mana whenua whakaaro coming through here with regards to that. Did you interact with any mana whenua? Are we interacting with any mana whenua?
Kia ora matua, Glenn. Yeah, we have linked ourselves with a number of Māori providers that work at the pointy sharp end of the mahi in helping our most vulnerable whānau accessing the services that they need, particularly in this housing environment. So so in terms of that, we're speaking with Te Runga o Ngāti Whātua and a number of the other marae across Auckland that provide those support services to our most vulnerable. Yeah, and I guess within council too, we're looking at some of the staff practices around engaging with our front-facing staff in the approach around connecting with homeless that are intersecting with front-facing staff on a daily basis. So that's around developing a more relational and collaborative solutions-orientated way of working. So all of that is sort of connecting into addressing some of the issues that our Māori whānau are facing.
Yeah. So you've been dealing with Ngāti Whātua, is that through Kāhui Tukaha or just with Ngāti Whātua direct?
With Kāhui Tukaha and with Te Haoranga.
Okay. So my question is, are there other mana whenua here that are in this space? Do we know, or have we discussed this with any other mana whenua?
Only the ones that are on our sort of engagement list through the Rough Sleepers steering group. So yeah, I mean Ngāti Whātua is the big ones for us.
Yeah, but I'm sure the Rough Sleepers aren't all Ngāti Whātua.
No.
So
yeah, it's a work in progress. Hey.
Yeah. So my question is the statement number 75. The key focus for Māori service providers is on by Māori for Māori strategy, collaboration and service delivery. Are you saying that the Māori service providers are only delivering to Māori?
I might answer that one just quickly. So the Māori service providers that we engaged for the report, gave us that information and spoke to us about the that focus. So that's Kāhui Tukaha, Te Whānau Rangimarie and Peak Body for Māori Housing, Te Matapihi. I don't believe they're only providing services to Māori. It's not exclusive services, but they are the Māori providers.
So they're not only providing services just to Māori. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so then 75 needs to be changed a little bit, is that right? Or why are you saying that's their only strategy? I'm just trying to understand, are Māori providers only looking after Māori? Or are they following on manaakitanga tikanga kaupapa of looking after everyone who comes to them?
Kia ora, Member Wilcox. They are doing a manaakitanga process. However, that statement in paragraph 75 is that when they are working with Māori, they have a focus on by Māori for Māori.
Oh, thank you for that clarification. No problems, no other questions. Thank you, Chair.
Ka pai matua. Councillor Bartley.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, everybody, for your work on this very important topic. I wanted to ask, in terms of the influence, leadership and advocacy part of the implementation plan, if there's any work that's going to be happening to look at how MSD deal with emergency housing, because I only know what I know on the ground, and I've had to help people that I see living in their cars in the parks in my ward, and I've noticed the difference between when I used to be able to ring Kahui to Kaha directly, the crisis line, after hours, because, you know, people aren't homeless 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and the situation that it is now, which is ringing the 0800 number for MSD and waiting hours in line. And the homeless person that I'm dealing with doesn't have a phone. You know, it seems very bureaucratic, and to be honest, it's not working. How they're dealing with emergency housing. So it would help with our advocacy to be able to have some research, as opposed to my anecdotal experience, that the way we're dealing with emergency housing is not sufficient for our city. But is that something you guys could look into?
Kia ora, Councillor. So our focus is really around supporting the sector. So we are keen to support them, and that is obviously an issue. I think there is a broad recognition that a large part of the solution to the homelessness crisis is around housing and making sure we have enough, and we're probably not in a position that we have sufficient housing. So that is always going to be a challenge for us. So we really will support the sector around making sure that they can connect the people that they are working with, up into those types of the services that they need, including housing, but as well as the others. So we're happy to work on those types of issues, but in partnership with the sector.
Okay.
Kapai?
Yeah, but the sector is not working. Well, MSD is not working. That approach is not working. If it was empowering the sector to be able to do what they do, then that would work. But I suppose that's something we can raise with MSD directly.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that as well, that the team, because they're obviously in consultation with them, would be a good thing. Claudia.
So kia ora, and thank you very much for that comment. So I'm happy to reassure you that we are also at quite a senior executive level in discussions with our ministry colleagues around these matters too. And we've had some very, very positive engagement with MSD who are also very keen to help resolve this issue, find simpler ways of working and help support our communities better. So we will continue to do so, and I can also raise some of that feedback perhaps directly with them if that helps. Kia ora.
Kia ora, thank you.
Ka pai, Claudia. So look, any whakaaro before Councillor Collins closes the debate?
Yes, Chair.
Ka pai, matua.
Yeah, Chair, look, I don't know whether we need to put this into amendment, but I think the kaupapa that Josephine has brought up is very clear. The sector, it's all right, the sector, but what about the homeless? And my kōrero would be actually that we actually ask the team to advocate, as an amendment, to advocate for a more responsive process for homeless to get housing. I was at the opening of a place at Atkinson and down there at Otahu, and the minister said straight out, we'd rather they be in a motel than sleeping outside on the road. But you know, if you've got to wait 8 hours or whatever to try and organise that process, there's no manaakitanga and there's no aroha in making people jump through a hoop to get a room. So I don't know whether we need to make an amendment or just make a strong representation to our team to really advocate, because Claudia has said so. That's all I have to say, Chair, and I'll see where you think it should go. Thank you very much.
Ka pai, Matu. I think the team have taken what you have said on board, so I would suggest we do that instead of putting a formal recommendation. And I've no doubt at all that Councillor Collins will follow that up with the team as the portfolio holder as well. Matua. Your Worship, the Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, just to pick up on comments that Glenn and Tony made earlier. Firstly, it is a situation of frustration because the homelessness situation in Auckland has not got better. It's got worse. And we largely know the reasons for that. And equally, we know that the instruments to properly tackle the problem of homelessness don't rest with council. Predominantly, they rest with central government. If it's about supply of housing, particularly affordable housing through social agencies, it's $1 million to provide a house. And you don't have to look very long at council funding to know that we'd only scratch the surface of it if we were to be a direct provider of housing. But as Glenn has suggested, it is a case of advocacy. And over the last 5 years, we have been using our voice for that purpose. Advocacy, first of all, to lift the number of houses being built, because if you've got a supply of housing that doesn't meet demand, the people that fall off the bottom are the poorest people, and it pushes the prices up. A supply of affordable housing, and we've pushed hard for more kāinga ora, more community housing. And the government's making some genuine efforts there, but those efforts aren't yet meeting the growth in demand for housing because of the situation with people on low income. The third sort of intervention is actually to lift the income of people that can't afford to get decent housing. And that's where, you know, the little things that we can do ourselves, like a living wage at council, but to push for higher minimum wages, to push for higher social support for those at the bottom of the heap, to push for more support for groups like Housing First, and we've been doing all of that as well. There is some stuff that we do directly, and we obviously have helped with the Auckland City Mission and put some millions of dollars into the Auckland City Mission and the home ground that they've built, and provided other support for them. We do provide some support for in terms of elderly housing. But, you know, constantly when we come up with work programs, we all know that you can't live in a plan. What is important is what is happening on the ground. It's about sustaining people's incomes. It's about tackling the causes of homelessness that are not just housing supply and demand, but mental health and addiction, drug and alcohol addiction. We all know what causes people to be sleeping rough because we've been out there, we've listened to them, we've talked to Housing First. We know what's happening, and we'll continue to push for those things. But in terms of direct provision ourselves through council, we know that simply is not a possibility, given the source of revenue that we have and the financial challenges that we face. So it is, as Glenn said, largely a matter of advocacy. But I acknowledge Tony's point. You know, 5 years ago, we were sitting around talking about the same thing. And the frustrating thing about the plan that we've got before us is that no matter how much we plan and how much support we can provide indirectly through helping providers, that doesn't solve the homelessness problem. But we are active on that. We are talking to government about that. We are pushing for improvements. We are highlighting the social costs of homelessness and what needs to be done. So, yeah, it will always be frustrating to look at what we can do. And that's why we've got to look at the partnership that we can create with central government, because they have the funds that can make a difference, and we want them to do more.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll get Councillor Collins, you to close the debate, please.
Kia ora, Chair, and thank you very much. And thanks, Chair, that you invited me to participate in an earlier discussion as well when this report was coming to the committee. Sir, I just wanted to firstly acknowledge the officers. I know that the officers who are involved around supporting the activities for rough sleeping in our homeless community are really committed to this work. And I can't see everyone on the screen in front of me, but people like Ben, Bonnie, Taff and Dickie have done fantastic work, and I'm really grateful for the work that they're doing because they're really supporting the sector. I think Councillor Bartley talked about just how frustrating it is when you're on the ground and you're trying to get things done. And so we've got to strengthen those partnerships. And look, I don't want to have a go at some of the public services here, but I would really welcome a way in which we can cut through some of the challenges we've had in connecting with government departments so that we can have the kind of results and outcomes that have been mentioned already by our members Tony Kake and Glenn Wilcox. So I think there's real work to be done there, because that will only enhance the activities of the sector, of groups who are doing amazing work like Auckland City Mission, LifeWise, Vision West, Salvation Army. There are so many groups doing some great work, and we want to be able to support what they are doing, perhaps from a strategic level, so that they feel like they've got the ability to get out into the community and support our rough sleeper and homeless community. So for me, I think that's where council can have an ongoing impact, because that's our role, as we're supporting some of these functions. We're leading in some areas which we've had, which has already been mentioned this afternoon. But I think this is another opportunity for us to say, well, where there's other gaps, this might be something that we can hold the breach for until the sector is happy with where that leadership is developing. So I think it's really important that we understand where we sit, that we look towards ways in which we can encourage and energize the leadership and the activity of the sector, because we know they've been ultra busy, especially over the last couple of years, but it has been a discussion we've been having for a long time. And finally, Chair, this is going to be a politicised issue. We've already seen it. We've already seen some what I would regard as horrific comments made in the media about how we treat the homeless. And I'm very wary that we want to support people, and the Mayor has already spoken about these activities. He's expressed his own frustration, but the Mayor has also been pivotal in leading discussions with the sector as well. And so everyone is committed to working with this community, but this is not going to change overnight, and this is not going to have an easy, simple, unrealistic answer and solution to it. And so my encouragement today is to continue to work alongside the sector. They know what's best, and the officers have reminded us today that they're doing everything they can. What do we do to continue to support their activities so that we can reach and humanely part of our community, because they are a part of our community. So thank you to the officers. Thank you, Chair, for bringing this to the meeting today. And I think this is something we've got to keep our eye on and ensure that the sector is successful in their activities, because when this particular sector of some of our most vulnerable in the community will be successful in housing and supporting our rough sleeper and homeless community, then actually all of Auckland is successful, because they're about all of our community. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, so the debate has been closed. The recommendation is on there. I will put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
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 Against? Aye. Carried. We'll move now to item 18. Item 18 has is a mover and seconder for item 18. And please, Maya, if you could note with item 18, if you